So we were talking with the farmers there that were involved in the grassland side. You've been involved in the arable side. Colin, maybe a bit of background on your own farming system, the crops that you grow, where you're located, and your involvement in the project from day one.
Okay, well, unusually I'll be as brief as possible because I'd love to get questions from the floor.
Yeah.
I'm in a tie, I'm farming. I know as the crows stopped flying down out of the trees, there was no earthworms behind the plough. There was no reason to land behind the plough. I made a conscious observation at the time. Something was fundamentally wrong with my soil after 100 years of beating it to death with a plough and a power harrow from the time of the steam engine on up. So I needed to find out what was wrong, and thankfully DANÚ has facilitated me in learning more about my soil than I ever thought it was possible.
Norman. Storm and Norman.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to stumble across David Wallace back in 2015.
That could be debatable now, Norman.
No, I'm not usually lucky, but I was lucky this time.
You're lucky this time.
Yeah. On his first soil course that he ran in
Right.
Portlaoise, and I actually met Johnny the same night, and that's how my base interaction started as well. So it was a double luck moment for me that night that David pushed the boundaries of soil biology and soil science that night, that so much so that I couldn't sleep for maybe 2 nights. But as a result of that, then I ended up becoming a base member firstly, and then later down the road we came to the EIP project. What that has done for our farm, my dad as well, those plots laid out trials for us that we'd always try something maybe once, but the trials actually laid out for us was we got a spanking for maybe taking the foot off the gas too much.
Okay.
And it was good to learn that from those trials, you know, that you have to wean yourself back maybe ever so slightly at a time rather than just taking your foot off the gas completely. And look, it's brought us down a road now that we're low input farming, we're conservation ag principles now across the whole farm as a result of the DANÚ plots, like so. Yeah, I don't know if I can add much more to it.
Yeah. But Johnny,
I can
Johnny,
answer,
Johnny might add as well. Yeah.
Hi,
in your own situation.
Johnny Green there, tillage and a little bit of beef there, South Kildare. My journey with all this happened quite a long time ago. In fact, it was much younger John Geraghty standing in the field around the turn of the century, where we started talking about cover crops and things like that. But you know, and then we went on and we started with set up a base Ireland 10 years now, and things like that. The DANÚ project then came up and also sat in David Wallace's soil course, and Neil Kinsey as well. I went over to the UK and studied a bit about soils, and once you start down the road, you always end up with more questions than answers, and you just keep going and you keep going. And that's when DANÚ opened up and we tried to answer a lot of questions, and I think we've come up with even more. But it's been, and one of the lads in the last group referred to it, is it's the mindset and the opening to allowing yourself to be wrong, allowing yourself to make mistakes, and bringing each other along as we go. And it's been a great group of 12 lads, 12 farmers, and I'm sure we've all made a few mistakes. But I think one of the plans or one of the hopes for the EIP, or a lot of things, or even like Base Ireland or anything like that, is you're trying to come up with a program that you can bring your own farm along and that others can see and bring other farmers, and then as a collective Irish agriculture can come along with it and hopefully get out of the negative press and what else is happening at the moment, and just be a better society for it.
Yeah, very good, very good. Nigel.
Yeah, I suppose my journey started in 2016-17. I'm cereals was very conventional plough till, so sorry, on the West Wicklow border, and I noticed every year, well, first my land was getting wetter and wetter, and even a shower of rain was making it impassable. I also noticed, like Colin, no birds flying around anymore. And I felt that the expression's been used before, a moron farmer. I was putting more and more on to just hold the yield. And I didn't really know where to look, but anyway, I went to Groundswell, met the guys from base, and then David asked me to join I did a soils course first of all with David, which really confused me. I mean, I had to do it twice, and I still don't know half of it. But started with there, and then I was asked to join the EIP, the DANÚ EIP, which put structure onto where my head was all over the shop.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out where to go, to be honest, and it's been an incredible journey, really.
Was it the plots, Nigel? I mean, to have a research
Yeah.
component on your own farm, is that what put the structure there for you?
And to have, David says we had freedom to farm, but at the end of the day, he was there saying, hold on a minute, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So, like, we had it gave a structure and for me, an actual comparison, because every neighbour was telling me I was wrong. This won't work. If I could get a euro for every time I was told that won't work, I'd be rich.
Yeah.
So I got real confidence out of it. Confidence to try things. Simple thing. I keep all my own seed, or as much as I can. And I tested a bag of seed. This is just a simple example. I tested a bag of seed 2 years ago of winter wheat. It failed miserably on the department test for fusarium. It was 50%. And I said, right, I can't use that. But me being me, kept a bag of it and decided to sow it alongside the replacement stuff I bought to find it outgrew. It was nearly 3/4 of a ton above the other because it got off so much quicker in my system.
Okay.
And that convinced me, home saved seed. And I've been doing that since. There's a whole lot of things I've been doing. In fact, my wife laughs. She says, our whole farm is an experiment. I've more whites. Every time something goes wrong, and lots do, I just stick a white steak in it, and the neighbours say, oh, it's another experiment. So, yeah. So it's been incredible. My main aim was to cut out synthetics, or cut down synthetics. That was my thinking. There was something not sitting right. So last year, I'm down at 50% of nitrogen. And personally, I believe the fungicides, the fungal diseases are connected to the nitrogen. Because if you have an excess nitrogen in a plant, the same as an animal, what Donald was talking about with the animals, you end up with problems. With the plants, the crops we're trying to grow, if you cut down nitrogen, I believe, and it's just me, I believe you cut down the fungal diseases. So in my case, in the 5 years, I've cut the nitrogen down by over 50%. It's nearly 60% down. Fungicides are pretty well gone. Although this year, like Donald with his ton of fertilizer, I had one can of fungicide I used, which I shouldn't have. So we've cut out all growth regulators. We've cut out quite a bit of stuff, and it feels better.
Nigel. How did you know that not to use the fungicide? What did you do?
Every time I go out with any product, I leave a test strip. So, the simplest, if you're going out with anything, turn off a boom of a sprayer for a section. I left a tram line unsprayed in the middle of the field, and it was exactly the same as the sprayed side. There was no fungal disease.
So you're continuing on the research, and you're doing it live, you're doing it in situ in the field itself?
Yeah, I think it's a very simple thing every farmer can do.
Yeah. And do you all do that? I mean, have you all kept the original plots in place, or do you intend to do that over the coming years?
No, well,
No.
as soon as
Plot 1 will be gone.
plot 1 and 2 will be gone. Sorry.
But I think that's what we've learned is the bravery. So if you go down the conventional route, you read your farmer's journal, or you listen to your conventional advisors, if you don't apply this or that, you're led to believe the sky's going to fall in. You have to put this on through risk management. And I think what I have certainly learned from the financial point of the farming this way is we put on so much risk management in each of it costs €1. It's a huge risk because there's a huge outlay. And what we have found, I think, as a collective, is that the sky hasn't fallen in when we've dropped these things out, and we've been braver, and we've been braver. And as a result, as I say, plot 1 is now irrelevant to us, and most of us are on plots 3 or 4 on how we run our whole.
Yeah.
Johnny, you said before that the hardest thing sometimes is to do nothing. And Nigel, could you give a talk about your beans and the advice Johnny gave you?
Sorry, the little story about the aphids, yeah? Yeah, it was my first direct drill crop. I'd just come back from groundswell, all enthusiastic about what I was going to do, and I sowed a lovely crop of beans, and thought they were this height when I went out to the field and noticed covered in aphids, bunches of them, like swarms of wasps all over them. And I didn't know what to do, so I rang my normal agronomist, and he said, "Oh, get out, spray quick." But I hadn't used an aphicide for a few years. I decided I wasn't going to do it, so it wasn't sitting well with me. So I put it up on our base group, and actually Johnny answered. He won't mind me saying this. And Johnny said, "Well, what percentage of the plants are affected?" I don't know if you even remember this, but I said, I had to go back down and count, maybe 5%. He said, "Do nothing, see what happens." So the next day I walked the fields, they were just as bad, and I was panicking. And the next day the same, and Johnny kept telling me, "Do nothing." And following day I saw a few ladybirds. And I rang Johnny, I sent him a picture, and he said, "The army has arrived." And I'd say 4 days later, they were gone.
Yeah.
And he is right. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is nothing.
Yeah.
You know,
Kenny was mentioning that as well.
The other thing is that
or Coleman.
because my system is much simpler. So because I'm using home saved seed, because I'm not applying all the inputs, and because I'm direct drilling, which is a low cost input system, I'm not as exposed, so the risk is not as bad. So therefore I can say, and look, if I lose a bit of crop, it's not going to be as bad. I think as the biggest mistake we as farmers can do is talk about yield.
Yeah.
Because when we do, we play into everyone else's hands.
Yeah, but it's in our DNA.
It's margin is what we need to be talking about. And this year, for example, my inputs on most of my crops were over €200 an acre underneath the Teagasc Green Book. So that gives me a ton of grain to play with.
Yeah.
You know.
Over the period of the EIP, what I've noticed among some of you is that you're doing your own agronomy, a lot of you now. I mean, as conventional cereal growers, in the past you would have engaged the services of an agronomist who might be private or could be engaged by the trade. And most of you are doing your own agronomy now to a large extent. Has the participation in the EIP, has it built your confidence to undertake that role?
Yeah. Like I said from the start, that we were allowed to experiment. Like the guys gave us the rein or the rope to hang ourselves effectively, that we could experiment so much with, and we had the access to these guys here that had the knowledge, or you had a lot of biological knowledge, David had the science knowledge, and we had a support group amongst ourselves that we could bang the questions into, like what Nigel said about the aphids, and Johnny backed him up, wait till the cavalry arrives. And like what Nigel said, we start experimenting in the rest of the farm, turning off booms here and there and seeing, did you get a result, did you not get a result? You could push it as far as you want to push it until you got hurt, I suppose.
I know.
Got hurt financially, but at small scale it was fine, and at the DANÚ plots it was good too. The agronomist is probably, he's the insurance of your crop. So you have to understand where they come from. That if a crop fails, who's going to be blamed? In the result is that you're going to turn around and blame the agronomist that that crop failed because you said take that off. So they're going to give you not belt and braces, but they're going to give you exactly how the crop is going to be managed from start to finish. And if you want to go into this system, I don't think you can afford that. Well, you can, if you have an understanding agronomist, he'll understand that he's not going to be blamed if you pull something out or do something different. You have to take the responsibility of yourself and farm for yourself.
But I think, Norm, what we can't underestimate is the level of information that was coming back from the testing that Dave and David did with regard to soil analysis, plant analysis, biological surveys of the soil, water. All this stuff was the foundation for our confidence.
Yes.
We didn't become confident on our own. We became confident because the guys recommended that we use Novacrop in Holland to send sap away. So we were constantly being reminded that it's a delivery of sap analysis has to go on Tuesday, and you're going to get the DHL docket on Monday. So you went out on Monday morning, and none of the thing taken the night before, lads. You're all to take it in the morning time, right? So there's consistency, right? So, there is science behind it. There's discipline. There's knowledge. There was an awful lot of thought that the Daves put into this that gave us the confidence. The Nigels, the Johnnies, Norman, any of the guys gave us the confidence to step out the agronomist, right? And I'm reminded this morning, I was reminded when the guy stood up here talking about the cows, I was, what Dan said this morning. If we think of our soil as in the same way as a dairy farmer thinks about the rumen of their cow, their stomach, the stomach of the calf, the bee stings, everything Dan spoke about this morning, we would never ever throw a lorry load of fodder beet in front of a load of cows. We would have acidosis in the morning. You'd kill them. You were doing it every other day with our soils. We were blackguarding our soils for the last 100 years or more, certainly since the war. But what we have done is we've gone back, and if you put your mind into the rumen of the cow, it's all about biology, it's all about balance, about mineral, proteins, all various things. We are now have the confidence to start doing this with our soils. And this is where it's given us, the second one for the aphicide was one of the things that Dave corrected me, I'm still going to get wrong. We discovered that aphids can only digest short chain amino acids, simple nitrogen-driven type proteins. Once you put on proper mineral balancing on that plant, the aphids no longer are attracted to that plant because you have complex the type of protein in it. Now, you're saying, what the fuck is that lad talking about? 5 years ago, I didn't even know what a complex protein was, right? So this is an example of within the course of 5 years, you can take someone that's over 60 and educate them, right? And I was looking at young lads coming in, I said this below in Carlow. For me, looking across here and looking at the floor and looking at my age profile and what's coming behind, a lot of what I have done is because my children are reared and my family are paid for. I am no longer risk averse like the guys that are up to their tits in mortgages and things like that. So we're doing the work on their behalf. And, most of the guys here, well, some of the guys are young enough to have more children, but I won't be having any of that. But,
So
No.
But just to
You
reiterate,
can get the rest of that in the pub later on, right? At the bar. John.
just to reiterate, I mean, the importance of this and what the farmers have achieved. Artificial nitrogen usage down between 15 and 50% over the course of the project itself. Insecticide usage, you were talking about aphicides, Colm, reduced by 100% over the 5 years of the project. Fungicide usage reduced by 30 to 60%. Herbicide usage reduced by 30 to 40%. And this was all achieved with minimal reduction in output. Again, I bring you back to the European Green Deal and the Farm to Fork strategy, and these are the targets that, you know, the Department of Agriculture and our government want us to, and the European Commission as well, want us to achieve. So it is very achievable. David, I mean, the lads have been talking about, Colm has been talking about the backup that you gave and everything like that. As an extension worker, as an advisor in the field, how do you approach biological agriculture, in your view, compared with what the conventional model is like? I know that's a hard one, but...
Observe. Look at your soil, look at your figure out what works for your situation, your context. You know, as Colin was saying, he has an opportunity now, once the kids are reared and everything like that, he's got less risk averse. So, he can take more chances to, we always say, like we started off, Nigel was saying before about take a small area, just do all your learning and your mistakes there, trying to figure it out from that, and then kind of work with nature. As Colin was saying, like, look at the moon, but you're observing and tuning in. Colin would talk about before, it's like you're playing a game of ball, and if it's hurling or football, the ball comes in low, you bend down to get the ball, it comes in high, you jump up. So each year the conditions are completely different. So it's about adapting to the conditions in front of you each time, and trying to, as Nigel was saying, he's built a lot of buffer into his system. So it's giving you can allow to have more mistakes and take a bit more risk, but it's kind of it's a slow process. Johnny would talk about doing like 10%. Each year you're looking to kind of reduce by 10%, little steps like that, just to reduce yourself. So you're not putting it all on red, You just want to have balance across the farm and just kind of understand where you are and what your situation is, and kind of. And having that support as well, having support of different groups and people to knock out different ideas and different and come up with different solutions.
Okay. Before Nigel, does anybody have any questions from the floor? And we'll just we have one question back down there, and we'll give Sean. Thanks a million. And Nigel, if you wanted to say something.
Yeah, we've talked all about farming, but the big improvement I see on my farm is the life, the biodiversity. Kevin's going to throw up a few photographs of the highlight of this year was some barn owls which were born in boxes that we had up around. Now I'm seeing huge increases in all wildlife, buzzards, kestrels, and now we have owls. Yeah. They were gone. So that's just it's just another aside. It's not just about the farming; it's the whole environment has improved.
Yeah, and a number of you mentioned when we were doing the initial introductions, that there was a loss of biodiversity, a lack of bird life, and that. And you've gone completely the opposite way. You're the Farming for Nature award winner for 2 years ago. Is it, Norman? Yeah. Huh? It was a fix. It was not a fix.
Yeah, look, we were gobsmacked for that as well. Conventional farmers were still classed as conventional farmers to come and take a Farming for Nature award like that. But all of the people that have been on the farm, like you've been on the farm, John, you've had your classes on the farm. We've had Danish people on the farm. We've had American students from Porter University on the farm. For the last 2 years, everyone comments on the life that's on the farm. They all say you have a thriving ecosystem that's going on the farm. And we have, not to get down into the nitty-gritties of it, but we have apex predators like what Nigel is talking about. And if you have apex predators, you have the food chain down along the lines for all of those animals, right to the ground, right to the soil, right to the biology and worms. That's
just like Dan Kittredge was mentioning earlier on.
Yeah, it's as simple as that, and that's it.
Okay, thanks, Norman. There's a question down on the right-hand side in the hall here, yeah.
Hi, Catherine Cole from the Organic College up in Drumcolor again. Brilliant to hear about the positive results of reducing inputs and increasing biodiversity, but I want to get back down to soil carbon. Have you got in all those soil tests that you did measures of the impact on soil carbon, specifically stable soil carbon, because sometimes I feel that people forget that there is stable soil carbon in the humus in the soil that is 100 years if we don't till. So I'd love to know if you have figures on that. I did ask this question in 2018, and it was like, or 2019, it was like asking for state secrets, so I'm hoping you're going to be coming out with the figures now.
Not yet. No, I've just finished sampling all the fields, and they're actually down in Southern Scientific at the moment getting analysed. So we are looking at different carbon in our soil. So we have a baseline from 2018, and we've just completed the sampling for 2023. So we will have those results probably for ourselves, probably in November, December maybe, and then we'll be going through all that. And we've got a crazy amount of data then to kind of look at and see what's the difference between the plots. And to be honest, I don't think we'll see too much of a difference, with what's going on. It's a carbon. It's a long process, and I don't know if what we've been doing in the plots would necessarily see. I'd be surprised if we see a massive increase, but we wait till we find the results.
Okay, Sean, you have another question over here. Oh, sorry, Johnny, just wanted to comment. Yeah.
I wouldn't be one of the more scientific of the lads in the group, but what I will say to answer that question is that there is a definite change in colour of the soil once you manage your soils this particular while for a couple of years. Sometimes you see it different down through the profile, but there's no doubt we're in tillage mainly and in no-till agriculture. There is a definite darkening of the soil, certainly in the top couple of inches. Now, when it comes to stable organic matter or humus compared to like stuff that will come and go, trying to get the deeper rooting cover crops, things like that, to try and bring it down to get the exudates lower in the soil, definitely. And I think probably, again, it's anecdotal, but the fact that we're managing to reduce our input nitrogen or inorganic nitrogen in the system without a loss of yield is surely telling us we've more organic nitrogen being held in the soil profile by soil organic matter or humus.
Okay. Sean, you've got a question down here on the right-hand side again.
Hi, Selena McKenzie. Just, are you, brilliant, and I love your work, but how do you see Roundup? Are you using Roundup as a tool in your cereal crops, and how do you see it impacting your work when it becomes, taken off the market in the foreseeable future? Thanks.
Do I have to take that one? Yeah, this is a huge issue. Huge issue. Yeah, we do still use Roundup. We try to use as little as possible. I'm not going to big up Roundup, but if you don't use Roundup in some situations, you might use 3 other herbicides in its place. So you have to be very careful when you're reducing any pesticide that you're not replacing it with another, things like that. I've always said in a no-till tillage point of view, I would prefer to use Roundup over cultivation. Cultivation, as I see it, is setting off an atomic bomb underneath my soil. Soil life destroyed, ecosystems destroyed. We want to build fungal populations in the soil which are damaged by both cultivation and probably Roundup. But we're looking for the least damaging. Now, if someone can tell me what the least damaging road to go down would be, I'll gladly take it, but it's very hard to go. We, on our farm, are trying to go with the least damaging being no cultivation at all, and that is allowing us to build the humus that we're talking about, grow cover crops and things like that. I would grow less cover crops in a system where I was ploughing it down every year. I would have less resilience in my soil if I was ploughing it down every year. There are ways where we can reduce it, definitely through use of fulvic acid, citric acid, lowering the pH in the thing. There's ways, and we're all trying that within the project. Have we managed to get the place where we are no-till, no glyphosate? Not yet. I'd love to get there. Sorry?
1 minute.
Oh yes, that's another very important point with glyphosate is there's no glyphosate going on the growing crop. We would all be against that. It's only to desiccate before we go into the thing. But we'd like to think that there's no residue of glyphosate in any food leaving our farm.
Okay. We'll take one more question at the back there.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Karen O'Donoghue. I'm from the Ballymaloe Organic Farm School, and thank you very much for your excellent presentation and for your bravery in going forth to try new ways of doing things. It's really inspirational. My question is really around the broader project and the sharing of the results and the information. So what is the plan from this point on to be able to take the successes that you've had, the learnings that you've had, both from the really honest acknowledgement of needing that shift in mindset to both changes of how you are farming and the application of X, Y, and Z. How are we going to take what you guys have done and scale it exponentially in an efficient but fast fashion? Because the reality is we have 7 years left.
Okay, thanks very much, Karen. Actually, this has been ongoing since the initiation of the project, I think, between the farmers and the groups that they're working in as well, but also some of the events that have been run by NOTS. But Nigel, you have a comment?
Well, I'm going to pass it to Dave now in a sec, but my only comment is it's going to be very hard. Look, I left a form of farming that was very much a prescription form of farming. I could get a list of what I was to put out on my crops in January. I could buy them, go and buy them. And what we're doing is most definitely not prescription. And it's a whole system. It's not just one thing, it's a multitude of things at the same time that you have to learn. It's a learning experience, and I'm not sure, I think, you know, if you were to ask me how would somebody start, I would say, like Johnny said, start small and then go on a soils course. Go on, start learning. There's heaps of stuff out there now.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure that we will have a mountain of information at the end of it. I'm not sure, I'm going to hand it to Dave in a minute, but I'm not sure there's going to be a prescription as such that, you know, in the conventional sense. There's lots of us, you know, well able to show you if you come to our farm what we're doing. And I think it'll be up to everyone to learn for themselves. I'm not sure there's a fast-track prescription.
Johnny?
Yeah, just very quickly on that one, you're dead right. We need a lot more farmers to move to this type of farming, and we need to move quickly. The problem is you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You know, when Base Ireland was set up, we didn't really go out looking for new members. Members came to us because they wanted to move to this type of farming. And I think to make this type of farming, to make any job succeed, you have to want to do it. Now, how to get the mainstream to want to do this is the big question. I think most people in this room want to make something more environmentally friendly work. When it comes to the result of the projects and how it brings forward people, Dave?
What? Do you want to say something, David?
Yeah, if I could.
Yeah, on that, yeah. Okay.
Am I live here? Yeah.
You're so live, you're bursting.
No, I know it's a very important question, and our job now, like Dave has just made it clear, we've still got the last bit of data to come in, and we've a fair bit of work in doing a compilation of that. We requested last year for an extension of 3 months to write up a technical report on the project, because as such we're finished with all project activity on the 31st of December. But I think, and we should have mentioned it really, it's impossible to have covered everything, we covered a lot, but the first key thing we can do in the existing commercial systems that are relatively intensive, which is where the sources of most of the problems we have from pollution elements and environmental degradation are, is to shift to a more efficient use of nitrogen. And melted urea, in other words, a foliar type urea, is ideal for both grassland and for cropping systems. And there's a whole system that we've put together on that. We have put the information out there at a number of fora as to how to go about it. But the reality is we will be sending our final technical report, which will be substantial. It'll have to have a literature review in it as well, because we're going to get a lot of criticism for the fact we're farmers doing experimental work, irrespective of whether it worked or not. So we're going to have to back it up with scientific papers, and we will have to have 20% of those papers peer-reviewed papers as a matter of course. And you know, the Department of Agriculture will be the first to receive it. We will make the report available. We're also going to do a 20-page report that's more farmer friendly, if you like, and a condensation of the key points and some key practices we believe that could be taken up immediately. And within 2 years of those practices being taken up on any farm, you should start to see changes and effects in a positive fashion. So you're right, that it has to be addressed. I think Dave might just want to add an element of that too to that.
Dave?
Colin wants to talk there.
No, go on.
No, as David said, like we're going to have a comprehensive report there for the department. It's kind of like a lot of people are saying, "What are you going to do?" And like, what do you mean us? You know what I mean? It's like it's like it's the department. We need to get the department engaged, and they need to engage with other bodies. Like we have Shagas there who are. Their remit is to educate the farming community, so we need to get that level of engagement. You know, a lot of times the problems with this with the department is a lot of these things. They need to be peer reviewed. It's kind of scientific. It's because it's a fine to put them in a scheme, but when you come into making recommendations, it's like the lobbyists that come against them is like, where's the peer review paper for this? Where's this? Where's that? So a lot of guys in the department want to change. But the system is also it's tying their hands behind their back. Yeah. So it's trying to figure out how to work with the system. Like I'm doing the master course down in Waterford, and to be honest, like some of the stuff we're going through, the farmers are way more ahead in the ground. But you can't say that in your reports because it's not peer reviewed. Even though you can see that they're doing things that science hasn't caught up. Yeah. So unfortunately, that's where we're at the moment as well. Is like it's the system is a bit is tripping us up a bit that way as well. But no, we'll be sharing it out, and like there is, as I said, like a lot of things we're doing. The farming groups like Base Ireland, the farmers are the same thing. They're doing learning from another, sharing knowledge. Like their motto is like farmers educating farmers. So it's that kind of mindset, sharing that kind of knowledge, and so I leave Colin.
Okay.
John, my last comment on that, because Dave has just hit the nail on the head. And the reality is, for everybody in this room, if we want, and talking about 7 years left, 17 years left or whatever, you're talking about a very small number of individuals in very influential positions who are insisting on this peer reviewed for everything. And if they have their way, well, that's just it. If we can't change that reality on the ground, given the situation that Professor John Sweeney outlined for us today, which is horrific.
Colin, just one quick comment.
Well, look, farmer to farmer, I don't need any peer-reviewed documentation. I've gone on this journey with these bundle of guys that didn't have any peer-reviewed documentation. They flew by the seat of their pants. I flew by the seat of my pants. And I guarantee you, if anyone in this room wants to go on the journey, you don't need our goddamn results. Just ask us this evening. The way won't be out till March.
Yeah. And actually on that, Colin just made that comment. The members of DANÚ will be in an ante-room here at the side after the conference finishes today if anybody wants to talk with them and discuss various issues with relation to livestock and grassland management, with relation to crops and arable ground management as well. So your appreciation, please, for Nigel Gillis, Colin Flynn, Johnny Green, David Beecher, and Norman Dunn, okay, and previously then to Michael Costello, Coleman Daly, Kenny Roberts, and Stuart Rogers, and Donald Sheehan. Thanks very much, everybody in the EIP.